A fight is now breaking out between the Aeon and Cybran over on the eastern flank. The Blaze is getting destroyed by the Hoplite broadside, and that is going to be a problem for... I forgot his name. Can I get his name? I can't get his name. His name is Hardstrong. That's going to be a problem for Hardstrong, as he slowly is going to be able to push back the Hoplite heavy force of... What's his name? Yeah, Fezward. Yep. I've been... How many games have I casted? Like 100 some odd games now? Still can't get it right. But this is Subpar Commander, so what were you expecting? Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to a Subpar Commander, where today we're going to be looking at some low-rated players playing on Nomads mod, and of course on the map Funeral Plains. I am still sick, so if I sound weird or anything, that is why. And also, if I start coughing, I'm not dead because this video came out, but I probably should be. Either way, let's go ahead and get into introducing our players, but before we do, make sure you are subscribed. You may think you are, but you may not be. Hit the red button. Go ahead and like as well if you enjoy my content, but with enough attention whoring, let's go ahead and get into introducing our players, starting with top right with Team 1, Team 2 of course on the bottom left. Starting with the blue Nomads player, going first land. His name is his name is Puckles Godly, or Puck is Godly. It's Puck is Godly. I don't know why I've said Puckles Godly before. But he's gone first land, and he's our first Nomads player. This is going to our second Nomads player, a red Nomad, going by the name of SoulGamer31BR, has gone first land as well. I'm gonna have to learn what the factories look like at some point. Moving on to our third player for Team 1, a yellow Cybran, of course having to go with a very boring faction, but still, he has gone first land, and his name is Fezward. Then we can move on to the last player for Team 1, a yellow Aeon, going first land. He's chosen the right faction, but of course I like Nomads a lot, so maybe it's not the right faction this time. His name is Mr. Kelmad42, or Kel. Then, moving on to Team 2, we're going to start with the red Nomads player going first land. Wow, this looks so much like an air factory to me. By the name of Ordo Reactor, he is a red Nomads player. Then we can move on to the purple Seraphim, somehow picking the worst faction when in a game with more options. His name is Thoin Martin RU. Okay. Then his ally, the blue Cybran, going first land by the name of Mad Claude. He's making his way out to the middle. And last but not least for the entire game, another Aeon, glorious to see it. Glory to the princess and all. He's purple, and his name is Hardstrong. Now, the map. There is 30,000 reclaim. It's spread everywhere. There's some civilian bases that aren't too relevant, because they only really have... Oh, I guess they are relevant. They have a T2 PD, so they're a bit harder to siege than normal civilian bases. There's the E-Clan symbol, of course, created by one of the E-Clan members. And we're going to go back to normal speed as we get it on with Donkey Kong or whatever. We're currently going to be seeing some interesting stuff. We also have, of course, the Nomads' little flying start, because the Nomads have their own lore. And their lore is they did not invent the quantum teleportation thing, the quantum gateway, and they use ships to get around. They have very fast ships, but they do need the ships to get onto the map, so you do see those just floating above the bases of all of our Nomads players. I believe they do go down whenever a Nomad player dies. That may not be true. We'll be able to see throughout the course of this game. And looking at it, we have a bit of aggression coming out from people. We have these Grasshopper T1 light assault vehicles coming out. They're kind of like labs, but bit different. And of course, Nomads having very distinctive difference between themselves and all of the base factions. If we see one, their energy, like their little auras, are the same color as your player color. So if you get a different aura, you have a different color, which is very interesting. Also, as far as the teams go, we have 2 Nomads for Team 1 and 1 Nomad for Team 2. See if that has any major effect on the game. And there's a lot of things about the Nomads, but I cannot explain them all in one cast. So if you do want to learn more, of course, always have the option of looking into stuff. And yep, see the little energy behind the engineer. This one's blue, whereas an engineer for his ally is red. So it's very much so a player-dependent thing. This is a slightly different shade of red. It's purple, actually. And yeah, that's just how these players are getting on. We have our first bit of aggression. Seems a silhouette T1 scout for the Nomads out from Soul Gamer BR has died to an engineer who's reclaimed it. That horrible, horrible Seraphim engineer drawing first blood by claiming the life of an innocent Nomad. Honestly, if Nomads were added to FAF, just straight up added to FAF, I would drop Aeon in a heartbeat. I'd be a Nomad simp. So, say what you will about the heresy and the glory I have lost in the eyes of the princess, but they're so cool, and their lore is very compelling. It's arguably better written than actual FA's lore, with them being like their faction has a major difference in the fact that they haven't figured out how to teleport. Ordo Reactor walking up here with the comm. The comm of the Nomads, of course, very different looking, very Cybern-esque, but at the same time distinct enough. And all of these players getting into it, duking it out. We have a lot of reclaim going on in the middle. It is, of course, a subpar commander, so all these players relatively low rated. It's an 85% balanced game, which means it's not particularly well balanced, but rating wise it is. Somebody has lower games than the other players, and of course that is what it is. Soul Gamer 31BR is getting shot at by the comm of Mad Claude, and they are still just sitting over here reclaiming. Manual reclaim going on. Gonna be building a T1 point defense down here in the bottom. This might be the worst place I've ever seen a T1 point defense built, because if you look at it, it can't really shoot anything on the outside of this little crater unless it that thing comes right to the edge of it, and even then it may only be able to shoot comms, may not be able to shoot normal units. We have Martin over here, who is coming up to help out Mad Claude as a bunch of units for Soul Gamer BR show up to kind of harass these comms, try and push them off. Wow, the building is very trippy for a Nomads. That point defense was not destined for this world. It did eventually fail. We have a bit of raiding going on the western side out from Soul Gamer, and he's going to be able to kill off a radar, and also going to be able to kill off a couple of power gens and a mass extractor for his trouble. You can see the firing effects for a few of the Nomads units. We're going to be seeing a lot of that. Here in the middle, Fezword and Soul Gamer 31BR fighting it out with Mad Claude. Ordo Reactor and Martin over here gonna be they're waiting in the wings. They're willing to come up and help their ally if things go south. The Nomads comms have some very interesting upgrades, one of which being able to speed up the comms movement speed, which is something none of the other comms in the game can do. I think that's for a balance reason. In base FA, no comm can outrun any unit. There's only one unit in the entire game with a slower move speed than the commander, and that is the Scathis. But if that ever becomes relevant in your game, please send in the replay, because I want to see you outrun a Scathis. Because you technically can. Puck is Godly over here, trying to put some pressure on, but Mad Claude, Ordo Reactor, and Martin are all here, and this is a not very good fight for our Nomads player here, going down quite low on health, down to 6,000 health and falling. He has some reinforcements over here from Soul Gamer, but he's going to be chased by 3 comms. Ordo Reactor looking like he's going to fall back a little bit here. Mad Claude coming forward and still throwing shells out. Mad Claude playing very aggressively. Ordo Reactor working forward with his comm. Thor, Martin over here still doing normal Seraphim comm things, and that's kind of just killing everything. The only good unit in the Seraphim roster is the commander, after all. And Fezward over here just kind of wanders his way in, meanders over, and is like, hey, I'll have a piece of this action. And he's gonna do battle with his Cybran opponent, and the Nomad and Seraphim ally of that opponent are going to help out in that fight against the Cybrans fighting the Cybrans. Tell me something new. The Aeon commander of Mr. Kelmad is taking quite a bit of damage from these fervors that were spammed out from Heartstrong. Heartstrong getting very close to sniping off the comm of Kelmad. This game, of course, is not full share. You can see it right here, share until death. So these players, when they die, they die. They are out. Their stuff does not get to their allies. You do not pass go. It is the end. Gun speed and range now on the way for Soul Gamer 31BR as he works on this upgrade by himself in the middle of a field, but he does have an engineer eventually show up to kind of help him out with the upgrade. And we can see a few more of the units for the Nomads out here. We can see their models and all of their glory. Let's look at the names of some of these. We have the Marksman T1 Tank Destroyer. Seems to be a very, if I recall correctly, this is just a very long-range T1 tank. It's kind of weak. That might be wrong though, so anything I say, take with a grain of salt. I have not played as much Nomads as the base game, and I do not know their intricacies quite as well as I do with the other factions. Not to say I know their intricacies well at all, because we've seen me make horrible mistakes over and over. Like, for a long time, I believed that T3 Mobile Artillery could fight a Fat Boy effectively. They can't. But, you know, everything is as it was. We have Soul Gamer 31BR just getting T2 now. Did he cancel his gun speed and range? No, he didn't. So he's getting T2 and he already has gun speed and range. This is inefficient. And I know, Soul Gamer, I know you watch my casts. If you're going to get T2 first. Sorry about that, guys. As I said, I'm sick. And I'm trying to get content out to you all. So, I'm not editing out the coughing. If it makes you cringe, I'm sorry. It'll be audio balanced as everything is. It shouldn't be too loud, but, you know, I do what I must for the content. Do it for the fans. Like and subscribe. Speed and range now on the way for Mad Claude. And T2 on the way for Fezward. We have many units on the field, but not very much fighting going on. Of course, Subpar Commander, you sometimes see these moments where the players are all kind of they're a bit timid about going for big attacks. T2 has completed for Soul Gamer BR. Let's see if he builds anything significant with that. He's going to get healed up by his little engineer allies, and that's going to be pretty good. He has no veterancy and 40 health a second on the comm. That is kind of broken, considering 15 health a second is what the Cybran gets. He has more health than a Cybran comm as well, so Nomad's comm quite powerful. Also, the only comm with like a really kinetic looking weapon, as you can see out there firing. I don't know if the effect changes when he gets a gun upgrade. I wasn't really paying attention earlier. But these units kind of plowing in to Martin's forward base over here. Going to take out that factory and the mass extractor near it. Going to be able to come out and do a lot of damage. Reclaim now on the way for Soul Gamer. And on the eastern flank, we have Mighty Blazes going up against the weak and minuscule Mantis. So these Blazes going to make short work of the Mantis as long as there's enough numbers. Of course, Aurora also helping out. Always a good supporting unit for your T2 tanks, as they can get free damage as long as your T2 tanks are taking said damage for them. Martin being pushed back even further. Soul Gamer 31BR has a very strong army now, and he's pressuring onto Martin very hard. Mad Claude with that gun speed and range upgrade is trying to get involved and trying to deal with Soul Gamer's push right now. Soul Gamer's units are kind of thinning out, and as the reinforcements for Mad Claude show up, Soul Gamer needs to think about getting out of here, because Mad Claude is now going to be threatening him quite hard. Martin's comm is also here. to throw some shots into spam if things start going badly for Mad Claude. And there's a bunch of T1 bombers now coming out for Mad Claude. They're going to be dropping bombs. These are the bombers of the Nomads. It is from Puck is Godly, the Phoenix bomber coming out, dropping those cluster bombs. You can see another pass of those cluster bombs momentarily. And as you can see, a bunch of little cluster bombs falling onto the comm of Mad Claude there. Soul Gamer 31BR falling back. He's getting shot at by Mad Claude quite a bit. He's taking a lot of damage to his health bar. These T1 bombers still causing issues, and there's enough interceptors in the area, so they're really providing lasting and good damage onto the comm. But Mad Claude is down to 3,000 HP and falling. Soul Gamer, oh, he was getting repaired. That's why he had 40 health a second. Jesus, I'm stupid. Everybody ignore me. He's only got 16 health a second. Somebody's yelling in the comments, no, he only had 40 health a second because he was getting repaired, you dumb, big, dummy head. And that's the death, and holy crap, what an explosion out from the comm of Soul Gamer 31BR. A black hole forms very momentarily and deals with him. And over his base, can we see it? Does the transport die? The transport does die, so his little Nomad transport has officially been killed. And with that, we have our first ejection of 2 players here at the 13-minute mark. Both players going down. They had relatively the same starting location, so they're not going to affect the balance of power in this match too horribly. I would say that the bigger loss is probably Soul Gamer. He was holding a lot more territory than his opponent was, but overall it's going to be very easy to re-expand into this territory. Puck is Godly still has his comm over here. There's still a steady stream of T2 reinforcements coming out from the base of Fezward, and things will be pretty alright. I'm guessing that most of this expansion is going to be done by Puck is Godly, and he has his T2 engineers coming out with their cyan underglow lighting that you see on old 90s vehicles that were trying to be cool. They're fucking neon lights on the bottom as they build mass extractors. And that's going to be giving a lot of economy over to Puck is Godly. He really needs to use that, though, if he wants to be effective. He's got to now play the role of playing 2 players, because he's kind of alone on this northwestern flank. He's managed to get quite a strong foothold over here in the northwest. He has a forward production facility of 4 land factories surrounding a mass extractor, getting the adjacency bonus on those. Players are kind of just scrimmaging all over the place. Hardstrong starting to build a fire base over on the eastern side. And it seems as though Martin has been dissuaded from trying to re-expand out over here to the central area. So if that is a continued theme, that's going to be a problem, because there's 4 mass extractors here. It doesn't sound like much, but it is significant, and you do need to take these over. Somebody needs to re-expand to this territory. You can't just give it over to your opponent. That is not a healthy or a long-term solution to your problems. You do need to address them, and you do need to re-expand when somebody dies, or re-expand when you lose territory, and deal with the army that caused you to lose it. This base now being rebuilt up by Martin, and T3 land has been achieved silently over here by Ordo Reactor, and he's building these Slugger T3 armored assault tanks. Very big, very beefy, 2 giant cannons on top of those. Very nice looking model from the Nomads team out on this side of things. And we can look at some of these production facilities. Air staging facilities. Wow, that looks fancy. That looks like something straight out of Halo, to be honest. And of course, the air production facilities here. We can see quite a little bit going on with these Nomads factions. Not really able to look at everything, but as I said, trying to show it off a little bit. A fight is now breaking out between the Aeon and Cybran over on the eastern flank. The Blaze is getting destroyed by the Hoplite broadside, and that is going to be a problem for... I forgot his name. Can I get his name? I can't get his name. His name is Hardstrong. That's going to be a problem for Hardstrong, as he slowly is going to be able to push back the Hoplite heavy force of... what's his name? Yeah, Fezward. Yep. I've been... How many games have I casted? Like 100 some odd games now? Still can't get it right. But this is Subpar Commander, so what were you expecting? Over on the eastern side, we now have Obsidians, which I think are the better choice, but Blaze is, of course, faster and do have very good DPS and range. It's always a choice. But Obsidians coming out on this flank, a lot of Blaze is going to have to pour a lot of damage into those Obsidians, and that entire time, these Aurora are going to be able to get some damage done. Going to lose some auxiliary structures, but nothing super significant. But Heartstrong under a lot of pressure, and his allies don't seem too interested in trying to help him out. So Heartstrong has a real possibility of being cut off from his main base and having his comms stuck over here in the very near future, and he needs to either think of an evacuation plan or really build out this fire base, to be honest. On the western side, we still have these T3 tanks. They're going to be able to get in here and deal a lot of damage, but do they have a fast fire rate? No, they do not. That's going to be brutal. These tanks not very good, very much so like Percival's, and not very good at killing off T1 or T2 spam. Probably designed those tanks to be very much so the T3 versus T3 kind of fight. This large push now out from Fesward, these hoplites now getting into the back line of Heartstrong and really going to be able to do a lot of damage. There's nothing in the immediate area to stop this, and Fesward going to be getting a ton of value on all of his units right here. These units going to do a lot more than they ever had any right to. Possibly going to be able to get into the main bases. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but maybe with the help from Puck is Godly and these brute T2 heavy tanks, which look very interesting. Not gonna lie. Triple barreled tanks coming out. Reminds me very much so of the tanks for the UEF and Supreme Commander 2, which now that I've said that, somebody's gonna go up unsubscribe saying, "You played Supreme Commander 2, how dare you?" But, you know, is what it is. T1 PD being thrown up by Heartstrong, not enough to stop this incursion. But the units for both Puck is Godly and Fesward have slowly been cleaned up. That's going to be important. Watchman, T3 anti-air out over here. I don't really know. I guess it's a missile launcher. Yeah, it launches anti-air missiles, which is interesting. And, yeah. Ooh. With all of that action out of the way, I get a second to breathe. There's a little bit of harass trying to go down for Puck is Godly over here, but mobile anti-air guns don't do much against fire bases, and that's mainly what he has over here. Maybe not quite sure what his units do, but these are all mobile anti-air. They don't do damage to ground units. Maybe he's just trying to stop any air from leaving the base, but I'm pretty sure T1 mobile anti-air is not going to do much to anything that isn't a T1 bomber. A huge wave of T1 bombers out from Puck is Godly, going for the comm of Heartstrong, but Heartstrong has he has 3 shields. These bombers are going to take a very, very long time to get through 3 shields, and even if they do, he's going to have a flak built in time. Flak's going to be coming online any second, and these bombers are no longer going to be very long for the world. It's going to be a bunch of dead T1 bombers very soon, as the MAR T2 anti-air flak artillery fires into them, and they fall out of the sky like arrows falling from the sky. A fire base was trying to he was trying to set one up. Puck is Godly trying to set up a fire base over on this central area, but not going to really work as sluggers do show up. They're going to try and chase the comm down, but all they do, that's a decent chunk of damage with just a couple of shots. Very much so Percival-like. Most comparable unit right now is Slugger to Percival. Isn't going to be enough to kill off Puck is Godly, and Puck is Godly going to move his comm well and far away from this situation, I would guess. Probably doesn't want to really risk anything. A T2 land factory going to be thrown up by Puck is Godly over here on this front line, and Heartstrong really trying hard to maintain control of this southeastern corner. The northwest has kind of just collapsed for Team 2, and Team 1 in Hardstrong is trying to make that the same for the southeast, but he's just having so much struggles. Now there's Loyalists on the field just destroying his blaze count, and he needs to go T3 land immediately. And he does have a T3 land HQ on the way, but he only has 2 engineers, which I'm guessing are on the way to assist, or no, they really just aren't. He really just needs that to get set up very, very quickly, because his allies aren't apparently able to assist him on this flank, and he is kind of alone. These Loyalists going to be producing real issues now. Earlier, when it was Hoplites, you could kind of deal with it by just overwhelming spam. Hoplite's not great at dealing with T1 and T2 spam, but with the Loyalists, it's a different story. They are literally designed just to deal with the spam units that are left over before everybody transitions into a full T3 force. The massive amount of PD that's been built up, though, by Hardstrong is going to help him out here. These PD are going to stall out the Loyalists temporarily, along with the chip damage coming in from the T1 and T2 units. But this is not a long-term solution. Bricks deal with this. And now that Fezword has thinned out, so to speak, the T1 and T2 unit count, he can kind of just go straight to Bricks, or he could stay on Loyalists and just use overwhelming numbers of Loyalists, if that's what he's so pleased to do, if that was what he's deemed necessary, or deemed that he wanted to do. These Loyalists still getting value, 26 kills, 17 kills, both of them having veterancy and regenerating. The Slugger just comes in and snipes one of them, though, and the second one goes down to another Slugger shot. These Sluggers getting decent value right now. Almost one-shotting Rhinos. That is redonkulous amounts of damage. And now the fire base of Hardstrong is going to fall to the concerted efforts of Puck is Godly, Mr. Kelmad, and of course Fezword, making this area, well, maybe it won't fall. Maybe the T2 PD are going to be just enough, along with these blazes that came in to save the day at the last second, but a heavily diminished fire base along with some Avalanche T2 mobile missile launchers throwing some shots into the fray. And Ilshvas on the field. Sluggers still doing their thing. There's a decent number of Sluggers now built up. You have T3 Air finished up for Puck is Godly. See if he produces anything spicy out from that. And he has his own T3 land as he now starts to produce his own Sluggers. Let's go ahead and take this moment of reprieve to look at the reclaim numbers. 45,000 for Team 1. Team 1 doing a lot better on the reclaim. And 31,000 for Team 2. Overall mass generation looks like it's about 375 to 200. So Team 1 just massively ahead. And that's kind of been the story for most of this game. It does seem that Team 1 has had a better handle on the approach to this game. And they also started with more Nomads players, which is always good. Nomads a very strong faction. Not unbeatable, though. These Sluggers now approaching the front line and throwing their giant cannon shots into everything around here, but I don't know if you have enough Sluggers to just break this position. I don't know their relative power level, but this is a lot to ask for 5 of any unit. I guess maybe not like 5 GCs or 5 any experimental, but any T3 unit. 5 of them aren't going to break that position. Does manage to kill off the shield gen, which is important, but and these Ilshvas coming up to help with the fight will help. The Loyalists going to take massive chunks of their health bars down, and then the Ilshvas will be able to clean them up with the DPS. Sluggers doing quite a good job at fighting off the Loyalists and still getting strong and good value, but is it enough? At what cost? He killed the shield generator, but at what cost? A massive amount of T1 assault vehicles. Not going to be significant. These weird, random, small unit count, or large unit count, but low tech attacks out from Puck is Godly and like just trying to control this plateau it's not really working out for him. I'd like to see the other T3 land unit that the Nomads have. They have the Slugger Assault Tank and then the Heavy Hover Tank. I'd like to see how this Heavy Hover Tank does, but I don't think anybody's going to build it because it's a land map. You don't build the hover thing on a land map, do you? Actually, the amphibious tanks are generally pretty good to mix into your setup, be it the Blaze, the Yinzine, the Riptide, what's the last one? Wagner. They all have a little bit of a different trade-off. Usually they either have higher alpha or higher DPS than the base tank and do quite well. And wow, the Sluggers, as I said, very much so like Percivals and very much so unable to deal with large amounts of T1 units, as these T1 units just shred through the Sluggers. Now, as more Sluggers show up and kind of match the numbers, I think it does become eventually you can deal with it, but those T1 units killing off a Slugger, which I don't think they had any right to kill off a T3 unit, but there you go. But he loses all of them and puts a lot of reclaim right on the doorstep of Martin and Ordo Reactor. Anything fancy going on back here? Nope. T3 on the way, T2 on the way. Players getting upgrades. T3 for Hard Strong. Another massive attack wave now mounting from Fezward. As various units continue to get themselves involved in fights. Overall map control, about 60 to 70% of the map in the hands of Team 1, and Team 2 really starting to feel it. As right now, just Puck is Godly is sitting at as much economy as Team 2 has combined. Puck is Godly sitting on a massive economy, so is Kelmad, but economies don't always tell you the story of a game. There's always massive swings, especially without full share on. You could see a snipe be super successful here. A snipe onto Puck is Godly immediately changes the dynamic of this entire game. I don't know if anybody's going for a snipe, but it is on the cards. Sluggers over on this northern side starting to push forward. We have Sluggers coming out in response from Puck is Godly, but finally some forward progress being made by Team 2 against the units out from Team 1. On the eastern side, this large attack wave still coming in strong for Team 1. Team 1 still just pushing in, and it looks like finally, after 27 long minutes, Hard Strong is going to be forced off of this southeastern position. He's finally got to T3 and he's starting to produce Harbingers, but it seems like it's too little. It seems like it's too late. As the wave of Harbingers and Vipers shows up, there's just no hope for the defenses of Hard Strong to hold out anymore. He needs units, probably needs an experimental, an Apocalypse nuke launcher on the way for Hard Strong. He's switching to standoff tactics and hoping that maybe he can get a nuke off in time to save himself. And we have our first experimental started, and it's going to be a beamer out from Puck is Godly. Man, it is building quickly. The health flying onto that thing super fast. Already up to 51, 52, 53. That's going to be out in no time. No time whatsoever. The beamer is a T3, is a experimental assault tank. It's hover. It's transportable, which is interesting because there's a T3 transport that can be built by the Nomads, and the beamer can actually fire while in the T3 experimental transport. The beamer can fire while being carried by the experimental transport, so you can have a ghetto gunship with T4s, which is very interesting. Over here on the southeastern side, we have a very normal looking FAF battle between T3 Siren and T3 Aeon. It seems as though the Loyalists and Vipers are going to prevail today. There wasn't enough Harbingers to clean this up, but maybe? Looks like the Loyalists have dissipated, and the Obsidian heavy tanks coming in. This is going to be a ton of dead Vipers. a bouncer in the back, which should be called a Scorpion, throwing shots into various units. But the Obsidian's really being a driving force in this, actually taking a lot of damage for the Harbingers. The Harbingers, of course, still going to be shot at quite a bit. T3 units generally prioritized, but those Obsidians also having that high alpha damage cannon, going to be able to dish out a lot of punishment themselves. Harbingers, though, out from Kelmad, going to be able to fight quite effectively, and that Beamer is indeed done, and we can see it move out in all of its glory right now. Going to be moving towards the northwestern corner from the looks of it. And yeah, there we go. Our first Nomads experimental on the channel. We can thank Puck is Godly for providing that to us. We have various fights going on. T2 artillery, the Voidbringer artillery installation. You always have to see the T2 artillery. It's the most important thing in any unit roster, and there it is, firing its shots off towards the fire base of Ordo and Martin. The Beamer now heading out to the west, seems to have a decent number of sluggers now helping out. The sluggers out from our good friend Mr. Ordo have really cleaned up this area and really just opened it up for Team 1. Team 1 making progress on at least one flank. And despite all of the pressure that's been placed onto Heartstrong, Heartstrong's still holding a decent chunk down here. Map control slowly starting to swing back into the favor of Team 2. If the game continues on its current trajectory, it's looking like Team 2 might have an epic comeback right now. It's going to be a hard-fought battle, but it could be done. The nuke launcher is done and is getting assisted by Ordo. So it's very possible we see a nuke. The question is, does the nuke happen before the Beamer for Puck is Godly shows up? Because that Beamer does not have a solution right now. A Beamer on the way now for Ordo Reactor. That could be a pretty good solution. But all of the players for Team 2 really need to be very careful. Team 1 really getting aggressive on this eastern flank. Now we have I don't know how to go about his name. We have Mad42. They've called him like 7 different things now. Kelmad now getting aggressive with his own T3 force, and Heartstrong's looking a little bit sparse. I mean, he's looked really sparse at many times, but is this finally it? Is this finally the push that forces Heartstrong to give up on this area? A ton of Vipers now firing at the firebase. If they start getting any meaningful damage done onto the firebase, this could be brutal. The Oblivion point defenses trying to help out. The Obsidian's still trying to tank damage. This is a defensive fight, which is a fight that I'm sure that Heartstrong's more happy to take with his low numbers right now. But he just doesn't have the same amount of production or the same mass to throw into these T3 mass battles. It's starting to show. There's chinks in the armor. He's slowly but consistently been losing ground. We really need to see some help coming out from his teammates. This is a position where he cannot win it alone. He's gonna need his teammates to show up and kind of bail him out of the situation as the Harbinger numbers just mount. The Harbingers admittedly being microed very poorly. This is a point where you just go in with the Harbingers. Keeping them at range and allowing them to get shot by the Oblivions is the worst thing you can do. But the firebase slowly starting to fall to the Vipers, and that's very dangerous. This one tactical missile defense, this one volcano proving to be invaluable against the waves of tactical missiles being launched out from these Vipers. And of course, unlike normal Viper shot, oh, also they're kind of just hitting the wall, so that's very unfortunate for the Vipers. Terrain not helping out there for Team 1, but that is a bit of a saving grace now for Heartstrong, who's managed to thin out the number of Harbingers quite a bit. You can see so many Harbinger wrecks over here, and now we have the Beamer. The Beamer is now almost in range to actually shoot something. Puck is Godly just needs to give the command, and that Beamer can start firing. And up the central battlefield, which has been kind of ignored, I do have to admit, there's kind of a giant gap here that can be really exposed by Fezward right now. And I think he's kind of been ignoring it, but it's looking kind of juicy. He can get in and kill off this production quite easily. T1 Bomber is coming out. Still don't understand the giant T1 Bomber waves we've been seeing out of these players, but hey, it's Subpar Commander. GC now on the way for Calmad. The Beamer, about 60 to 70% complete now for our Ordo Reactor. The Beamer for Puck is Godly sitting here in a very nice formation with its Slugger counterparts. Sluggers here in the middle for Ordo Reactor, going to come out and fire shots into the bricks. I don't know if they trade well into bricks or not. Whalers now coming out to kill off this, and there's just not an air response. Looks like nobody on Team 2 has air, and that might be the final nail in the coffin for Team 2. Team 2 just not having any way to deal with these Whalers right now may be the end of it. Does anybody have T3 air? Not seeing T3 air here. We have T2 air on the front lines for Martin, but that's not significant. The nuke launcher about halfway done with its nuke, but it's not going to do anything. The units out from Mad 42 finally pushed back, but at what cost? There's very little firebase now remaining. My phone is dinging, which is certainly not professional, but you know. Oh, hey, look, this is the E is getting reclaimed. Over here, the E is perfectly fine. That's a lot of T1 factories for some reason. The Beamer finally moving forward and firing on something. It's firing on the firebase stuff, and very line of sight, so it does need to take into account the hilly terrain here, but once it crests this, it should be able to fire. Firing through itself. Interesting little look there. And that giant laser beam doing quite a bit of damage. Does kill off the first firebase, but there is indeed a second firebase. And that missile launcher just took a chunk out of the health bar of that Beamer. Or that was an artillery piece, I don't know. And the army for Fezward now coming up to the front. He has the Whalers to support it, so there's just really nothing that can stop this army. Fezward just gonna slowly use Vipers to kill off everything in this area. The Beamer for Ordo Reactor getting close to finishing. That might be an answer to the Beamer out from Puck is Godly, but the map is slowly contracting around Team 2. Team 2 has had a very slow and drawn out death, to say the least. Because it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. We're going to speed up until something major happens. On the eastern flank, there's still this perpetual war going on between the units for Mad 42 and the base for Heartstrong. The Beamer for Ordo Reactor is finished, and the Beamer for Puck is Godly is moving forward. And I think this is where we have the game decided. If this Beamer is killed off, and the Beamer for Ordo Reactor can do anything significantly to the ground game for the rest of the map, then we might have a chance for Team 2. If this Beamer gets too much done for Puck is Godly, I'm pretty sure Team 2 is pretty screwed. Seems as though the units for Fezward, which we can see in the background, are also still fighting. We're going to slow this down a little bit as these two Beamers fight each other, turn on health bars for a little bit. The Beamer for Puck took way too much damage from the firebase and is going to go down first. The Beamer for Ordo also going to probably go down relatively soon. It's facing a lot of sluggers, and sluggers seem to be like Percivals and probably pretty good at killing off experimentals. But another firebase. There's just layers upon layers of firebases. The firebases for Team 2 are like onions. many layers. And we have a bunch of strat bombers Oh, could we see a strat snipe? Puck is godly, having his strat bombers line up. The Red Rage strategic bomber, we get to see possibly how it goes. It doesn't really matter who they snipe off. If they snipe off any of the remaining players, it is GG. We can see bricks and a large-scale offensive going on. And it looks like it might be going for Martin's Comm. We can see Martin's Comm right here. And yep, that is indeed does seem to be the target. And what do the bombs look like? They look like giant flares. And the bombs go down, but... oh, is he gonna die? Oh, and he is. It looks like there might be some damage over time on those, and that's the death of Martin. And with that, I think the game is over. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner, Hardstrong about to die himself. Yeah, Hardstrong is going down as well. That's a solid GG from our players. Hardstrong going down now. And all that's left is Ordo, and Ordo was going to try and build another beamer, but his current beamer is going to go down, and that's going to be the end of the hopes for Team 2. Thank you all for watching. You've been beautiful. We're going to get to see one more absolutely stunning explosion. Try and get a very good view of it for you here. But thank you all for your beautiful, beautiful contributions to the channel. We're very close to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you to the Patreons for subscribing. Timothy Calderwood, Sergeant Syphilis, Icy Nightmare, Idle Betazoid, Mutant Gene Pool, Nogthar, GTVA, and I think that's all of them. Could be wrong. And with that beautiful explosion and the comm of Ordo Reactor no longer existing, I'd like to thank you all for watching and wish you a beautiful day.